Καλησπέρα σας, παιδιά. Είμαστε εδώ για ένα άλλο επεισόδιο για το YouTube Orthodoxy Questions and Answers.
OQA.
Ναι, ήθελα να το κάνω στα ελληνικά γιατί σήμερα το παράδειγμα που έχουμε εδώ είναι το μπέκο να κάνετε το ελληνικό καφέ. Και δείτε εδώ ότι έχουμε το καφέ από την Ελλάδα και αυτό είναι ένα καινούριο πράγμα που κάνει το ελληνικό καφέ. So, for those of you that did not understand that, today, instead of whiskey of the week, we have coffee of the week. That's what I have right here. So I love to have coffee in the morning, but Terry's not always up for making my coffee. And you know, us Greeks, you know, the wife, that's her role, right?
Wait, what is our role?
Oh, yep.
Sorry, I wasn't listening. I was reading the questions.
So anyway, there's this, yeah, I'm going to be in trouble when I get home. A lot of trouble. Oh, yes. So, but anyway, and wonderful thing, you just put the coffee in here, just put the coffee in there, you add the water, put it in there, and literally it will make you not only the cafe, the coffee, but it will also, you know, θα γίνει το καμάκι. So it'll have the kamaki on the top, and it makes a beautiful cup of Greek coffee instantly. You don't even have to do anything. I love it. I have a video out on making the Greek coffee, but this thing does it even better. So I want to do that. Now,
once again, we're not sponsored or
we're not sponsored by Papagalos or the Beko product here.
But if you're watching,
Right? So I'll turn this around so they can't see.
We were offering Father's Coffee Maker for a low donation of $300. Make
Oh,
it out
that-
to Demos.
Demos that. But more importantly, it is nice to have you back.
it's nice to be back.
We've been trying to get some other people involved, so you have graciously kind of stepped aside just so that we can get some other people on the show.
It's more fun that way.
Yeah, it is. They get to see different talent on the show, but it is really great to have you back. I know you're going to be getting a lot of comments about, yay, Marissa's back.
I don't know if we'll see. We'll see. I'm excited to dive into the questions. Are you?
I am always very excited. I am in a state of constant joy.
Okay, so no other business to discuss? We can jump right in?
No, because Demos doesn't like me to talk too long. He wants me
Okay.
to work.
All right.
He's a slave driver, he is.
Yeah, he really
That's
is.
why I watch Indiana Jones. I can learn how to use that whip.
Okay. So Fotina asks, does active cremation deny or affect someone's resurrection and or salvation? If the body is integral to the resurrection, what happens to those people who have been cremated actively or who died in a way that their body was destroyed naturally during or after death, say in a fire or at sea?
Well, is this your hidden question? Because your name is Fotini. So is this your hidden question that you're asking?
I did not ask this.
This is not your, okay, all right. So, but I think that you could help me answer this question because pretty much what is the answer to 95% of all Orthodox questions?
Oh, yes, it depends. Yes.
It depends. Look, the Orthodox Church will never pass judgment. That is not, God's judgment is his realm, right? Mm-hmm. So we never talk about mind of God. So even though I have had a number of people that have chosen, families that have chosen, for cremation, we will never say, well, they're doomed to eternity in hell. What we will say is that, we can't give them a memorial service with the koliva and all that, and we will say that their judgment now lays in God's hands, as everything does, okay? Whereas with those then who abide by the canons of the Orthodox Church and live the life that Jesus told us to live, then we have that guarantee that we will be with him in heaven. But
so can you, for those who might be watching who aren't familiar with practices and orthodoxy, could you explain a bit the purpose and, what koliva symbolizes for people? Why is it important to have it for the memorial service, and why can't someone who's been cremated have it for their memorial service?
Okay, so the koliva is made from boiled wheat. Mm-hmm. And the idea is that Jesus Christ himself, and again, I can't recite exact scripture, but he says, if the wheat does not die and buried in the ground, it cannot resurrect, meaning that the seed has to die, it goes in the ground, and then it will grow. So as our body, so it's symbolic of our body then being buried, okay? If you burn the wheat, right, there's no chance, right, of it returning, right? Now, again, I'm not trying to say that there's no chance of returning, but Jesus is making some allegorical connection here, or metaphorical connection. I always get those two confused, right?
Yeah.
So that's what the koliva symbolizes, okay? And normally speaking, at least in the islands, the first year the koliva is not made with sugar. So that because it is very bitter, pikroin and all. So at the end of the first year, the very pleasant memories start to overtake the memories of sadness. So we
you
sweeten
add
it. So we sweeten it a little bit more. All right. And then again, that just varies. So that explains the koliva. The second part of your question was, when we talked about the connection between the two. Was there something else that you?
I think you answered it.
Okay.
I feel satisfied by what you said.
So, why can't we have that? Because
were burned.
that koliva is symbolic of those who have had an Orthodox canonical funeral. Okay, and so we can always say it to Sayo. So, for example, in October, when it's time for when we're going to celebrate Terry's father's memorial. Right? He was not Orthodox, but we're going to say it Tresayo, because we could always say it Tresayo for anybody. But the koliva is strictly for those that are Orthodox.
Understood. Let's move on to the next one. The next one's from Elizabeth. She asks, isn't it true, too, that when a man is met by an angel biblically, they are frightened and afraid, which is not why the angels respond every time with fear not?
Which is why.
Sorry. Oops.
Well, certainly
Yeah.
it's true in the Annunciation. Now, sometimes the angel will disguise himself. I think it was Raphael in the. I'm just trying to remember the particular story.
Was that the one with Leonardo and Donatello?
Wow.
No. In fact, we had that question where the angel, does the angel lie to him? It appears to him as a person. It evades me where that story is from. But in that particular case, the person was not surprised because the angel purposely disguised himself. And it wasn't until he revealed himself as the angel of the Lord that there was astonishment and trembling. So the lesson to be learned from those, from the way that the saints behave and the Virgin Mary behaved, is that we always want to discern the voice that is speaking to us. You read about all the time, or you hear it on the news, God spoke to me and told me to kill 500 people. Well, that probably wasn't the voice of God, okay? We need to be able to discern clearly. And the first response that we have when we don't know something is?
I don't know.
No. I mean, if somebody approaches you and says, "Hey, come with me."
No
And
thanks.
as a woman,
Yeah.
the first thing is you're always apprehensive. Once I identify myself, this and this and this, you can discern and make a decision. But your initial response is the same as the Virgin Mary's. It's one of, again, not fear necessarily, but of trepidation.
Yes, that's a good word. Roxanne asks, was Judas forgiven?
Have no idea. I have no idea. We have the Gospel of Judas that says that he was a pawn in this whole thing, and he had to be the son of perdition. That Jesus revealed to him all. Okay, these are all books that are declared heretical by the church because we cannot establish authorship, and they were written much later after the events of the apostles and Jesus. So we have absolutely no idea. The only thing we can say for certainty is that, at least within the Orthodox Church, is that Satan is beyond salvation. Origen tried that, didn't work, but to say that any of God's created humanity cannot be saved, I can't give you an answer.
I hope I say this right. Alid, 81, says, I live in Glasgow, Scotland, and am currently considering becoming Orthodox.
Die.
I am currently Church of Scotland, and we place great emphasis on worshiping in a language you understand. Can you advise me on whether I should go to St. Luke's and not understand the Greek, or go to a Russian Orthodox church, which is all in English? Thanks in advance.
Actually, and probably you've heard, I got to serve at St. Luke's in Glasgow.
Really?
So,
Cool.
so again,
Yeah.
COVID has prevented it, but we're in Scotland every year, and we always stay in the Highlands, and we like the west side a little bit better. So we'll stay in Strontian, we'll stay in Stirling, we'll stay in Perth. Terry's family is actually from Firth, right? Fintry, sorry, is her ancestry is from Fintry. So we'll always stay on that side, and it's only like an hour to get to Glasgow. So I have served in the Glasgow
Very
church.
cool.
Yeah, it's very, very cool.
Wow, direct connection with a viewer.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
cool.
And it's very cool when all of a sudden you say, "And let us pray for Her Majesty the Queen." I love that. Yeah, that's kind of cool when you're here with the president. But getting back to his question, the priest that is there, Father Constantine, wonderful man. The second priest that is there, Father Mark, is actually from Glasgow.
Cool.
So now he can obviously do the service in Greek, and yes, that service is in Greek, but if that is an impediment to your appreciation of Orthodoxy, then I would have to sadly say, go where you are comfortable and you're comfortable with the language. St. Luke's is a wonderful parish. Terry and I enjoyed ourselves when we went there. I know the OCA parish that he's talking about because there's 4 in Scotland there. But if that is really what moves you that you want to hear it, I would encourage you to do that. But at the same time, I would encourage you that every once in a while, you go to St. Luke's and you just hear it in the Greek. It is very beautiful.
Exposure.
Yeah,
Just
exposure.
like have exposure to new opportunities. Moving on, we have, wow, I remember this name, Trench. Some priests say a Christian should not participate in high-risk sports like skydiving, for example. Would you agree? Also, isn't high-risk activities almost like breaking the speed limit? For instance, like in court, if you break the speed, it means you have no regard for your life or how others might see and interpret the law. So you see what he's kind of getting at?
I see what it's, and you know what? And I agree, but I think I agree for a different reason. When you are young and single and you want to take on an extreme sport, the church doesn't really have an issue with that. But where the church has an issue is that once you are in a position of responsibility, you have a wife, you have kids, you're a priest, you are a vital part of, let's say you're a very renowned doctor, right? There are people that are counting on you being there, okay? And especially the family, right? And I hear it many, many times where the person says, "This is just a dream that I've had, and I've got to do this extreme sport," okay? And my family will understand. And then he dies. I'm saying most of the time a guy. Then he dies, and the wife is left with the 3 kids, raising them, and says something like, "Well, he died doing what he wanted to do." It's not about him. It's about the responsibilities that he has with his family. Okay, so you've got to make a decision. Okay, get your extreme sports out of the way. Be single and have fun and do what you need to do. But you cannot have your cake and eat it too. I'm sorry. You take on the responsibility of a wife or a husband. You take on the responsibility of being a doctor in a cancer ward for children. You take on the role of becoming a deacon or a priest. You have placed yourself in a position of responsibility. And to just what's that word? Not casually, but flippantly just say, "I'm going to do this for myself." You are no longer one person. You belong to a community, whether that community is the family, the church, the hospital, whatever that is. And for you to go and do those very extreme, dangerous sports is extremely selfish. So,
Yeah.
I agree with Trench, but maybe in a little bit of a
But
different
if I may add something, skydiving, for instance, the odds of dying in a skydiving accident is 1 in 100,000, where driving a car, it's 1 in 100. It depends. I think it also depends a little bit on your definition of what is an extreme sport.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop you right there. Okay, because driving is an essential part of everyday life. You have to take that risk. I do not have to cliff dive in
Yeah.
order to survive. That's the difference there. Yes, you stand a chance of dying in a plane crash or a car crash, but these are essential things for you to earn a living. The Orthodox Church understands that. But to say, I'm going to parasail off of the mountain and do something that has nothing to do with anything other than your selfishness. I'm sorry.
Parasailing is 1 in 600, so that's a little crazier. Base jumping is 1 in 60. 1
Yeah.
in 60. So
Clearly, we
yeah.
know what Demos likes to do
And
or is interested in doing.
and Trench's question was very
I'm just kidding.
was focused on extreme sports.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was a little tough on that question, but
No, it's okay. While you were doing it, I wanted to give you some snaps, but then I realized we're in a church and not in a coffee shop.
it seems like we're in a copy.
Yeah. Aaron 88205. Hello, Aaron. Good to see you in the chat. He says, hello, everyone. My first for today is, what is the Orthodox Church's view on people who claim to be clairvoyant or work with angels, white magic, quote unquote, etc.?
Oh man, it was so good until the end. If we just leave the end out, okay? Clairvoyancy has some kind of scientific merit, weak as it is, right? That there could be, right? No?
I'm just not going to
No?
comment.
Just, okay.
I'm
all
going
right.
to let you say whatever you got to say.
No. I mean, you're the scientist, right? You're the scientist. I'm just the engineer. So you actually have a much higher
Go
education.
ahead. Go ahead.
All right.
Don't worry, I can sense what she's thinking.
Oh, okay. All right. No, but I thought that there was some kind of scientific evidence that there could be some degree of extrasensory perception. No?
Well, if you put it that way, when it comes to for instance, colors, right? There are colors or wavelengths of light which we cannot necessarily observe. Animals might observe some of those wavelengths, but they might not be able to observe the wavelengths we're familiar with in the visible spectrum.
Gotcha. Okay.
But there are some people or some communities of people who have been able to determine different shades of green that would be perceptually indistinguishable to other people. There's some tribes in Africa, I think, that are capable of doing this. They can tell exactly apart different shades of green that
So
would look indistinguishable to us.
and why I was going there is
Anyway,
because,
so that's extra perceptive.
okay.
It sounds more boring than being able to communicate
Okay,
with your
with-
dead grandma, but
So we certainly have documented cases where the saints of the church have had visions, right?
Okay,
Clairvoyance.
okay.
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 All right. So we have that, and again, that has not been scientifically proven or anything like that. Okay, but it certainly has given science pause, because we have some modern examples of that with the elder Paisios and Porphyrios and those modern saints. So we don't discount the ability to do that. At least the church doesn't. But what we would say is that clairvoyance, if you want to call it that, comes after years and years of meditation, study, prayer. That idea of theosis in the Orthodox Church.
Yeah.
It just doesn't come to people. We don't see it in that sense.
it takes
right?
effort and discipline training.
Discipline and training, just like anything would.
Yeah.
So when people tell me about that they've seen this or that, we treat that with a little bit of skepticism, because I think it's much easier for those demonic type of visions to disguise themselves as angels of light. And that goes back to that question that we had about discernment, right? You got to know who's speaking to you. And only somebody with that discipline and exercise and practice, like the monks of Athos
Yes.
and some of those others,
Yeah.
can know who's speaking to them.
What
Yeah.
about the last part, though? White magic.
Okay, so
Like magic for good, witchcraft for good. I
magic.
think that's how it-
Just like we don't have mortal and venial sins, we don't distinguish between white and black magic. Okay, magic is magic, and we are clearly forbidden from practicing any type of magic.
Trench's second question is, the Bible says to not defile the marriage bed. What does this mean? Since many will see it in various ways. For instance, like I could take that as like you didn't make your bed in the morning, so you defiled it. But yeah, like what is that? I guess we can assume what it actually means, but
Yeah, come on, it's adultery.
it's adultery.
It's
Yes.
adultery. Okay.
Yeah.
But other than that, it has to be taken also the bed in a symbolic way. And this goes back to that question about responsibility. If you deny your marital responsibilities, then you are defiling the marriage bed. But bed in a symbolic, the marriage itself, okay? So clearly adultery is the first thing that we think of. But those other things that disrespect the marriage, abuse, beating of the spouse, ignoring of the spouse, all of these things are items that the spiritual court allows a divorce to be granted for those things that defile the marital bed in that symbolic sense. So don't just think of it as just the bed.
The
right?
bed. Yeah. His third question, since the Bible can be read literally, historically, allegorically, and metaphorically.
Oh man, very good.
Yeah,
Very
yeah, nice one, Trench.
Very nice job.
Wouldn't it also be good to have 4 types of Bible study to focus on each part to not confuse people, like the Protestants or people that, in general want to learn?
100%. I would absolutely agree. And I make every attempt that when we do a gospel study, that within the gospel study, I present those things that the church understands as metaphoric, historic, allegorical, and then literal. But you're right. Many times, some non-denominational, and again, I don't want to blame the Protestants, because the Anglican Church, the Lutheran Church, the Presbyterian Church do a very, very good job of understanding that. Sometimes what happens to non-denominational Protestants will only see those literal interpretations, but only to their benefit. Because when it comes to take, eat, this is my body, then they say, well, that's not literal. He didn't mean that literally. Okay, you can't play around. I mean, either you interpret the Bible literally or you don't, right? So they're kind of playing around there. So obviously we're talking about Holy Communion there.
Aaron's second question is, when we have forgiven someone for something that they've done to us, does that mean we also have to be friends with them? I would say no.
Yes, and I would, remember, you are not called to like everybody, but you are called to love everybody, okay?
I guess love could be equated to respect in a way here.
No, an actual love, an actual heartfelt, salvific love. Please, Lord, do not write this person out of your book of life, even if it means writing me out, as St. Paul says. There's no, you can't symbolically hide this.
Yeah.
Love is love.
For instance, I love you, Father, but I don't like when you bang on the table.
Yeah, that is correct. Absolutely right. But yes, we are called to love, because to love that person, because again, when I come out with the communion cup, I say, with the fear of God, faith, and love, draw near. I don't say you like who's sitting next to you. And again, and if you know that being around that person is going to cause you to say or do something unchristian, okay, then you avoid that person.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're in a work environment, and then like I learned in the military, you're going to have to learn how to work with them.
Yeah.
You don't have to like them, but you got to learn how to work with them.
Yeah, sad truth. Nicholas Eurostergos says, when my dad died, Archbishop Demetrios used the Holy Communion veil instead of the shroud. Thank you, Terry, because he was a priest and is the same as the shroud. Like, I guess I think what he means to say is, like, for a priest, maybe the shroud is the same as the communion veil. I'm not entirely sure, but
Wow,
I
okay.
guess there's something about communion veil, shroud.
So, no, certainly a clergy burial is going to be different from a layperson's burial. Okay, so there are differences there, and each bishop is allowed the latitude of certain customs. So in this case, that just may have been one of Archbishop Demetrius's ideas that, if this was if this was a communion veil that was very special to him, or that he used, or was a gift to him, then he would lay that out. I don't know of any specific symbolism that is attached to that. I only know that the shroud is what is appropriate. But it could be that was Archbishop Demetrius's expression of love for that particular priest.
Yeah, that's a question for Archbishop Demetrius,
Oh,
perhaps.
now last week, I don't know if they're still watching. Last week there was a question that I could not answer, and I got the answer. So when the question was, when the deacon comes out with the kazion, that's the one I hold in my hand and I shake, instead of the censer, he attaches a veil to his arm that attaches to his shoulder and runs down to his wrist. So the question was, what is that? I found out what that is the monastic version of the orarion. The orarion is what the deacon wears, that strip that goes around and makes an X on the front. That is representative of his deaconship. So that's what that represents. The second question was, they showed us a picture of one of the deacons holding what looked like a metal church. It was a metal fashioned church. And he was holding it up on his shoulder, and he was processing with it. And they said, what is that? I had never seen that before. And so what I found out is that certain churches, mostly Slavic churches, which is going to be Romanian, Russian, Ukrainian, the church can actually have an artist create a small model of their church, and they process around with that, representing their church.
Wow.
So
cool.
if the church has enough money to buy one of those things, that's what they do. So a lot of cathedrals and stuff will have that, and so it is an exact duplicate of their church.
So we buy some small bricks, and we can put together our church.
Small bricks, small mortar.
I don't know. The outside of our church wouldn't look as exciting as the dome with,
gotta-
with the bulbs and everything like that. It just wouldn't have that same
Yeah.
hard-hitting impact.
Oh, it's a nice surprise. A lot of people, when they first come into this church, what do they say? They look at the inside. They're blown away because it's a little bit of a surprise.
100%, right? 100%. We're not that fabulous from the outside, but you walk in, and I mean that's why we have it in the church, because it is so beautiful.
Yeah. The next question is from NG1A. Does the GOA plan to provide a social service similar to Catholic social services? Not all parish priests have enough bandwidth to handle such issues.
So
That's a valid point.
no, that's a great point.
Because you even emphasized Catholics know how to do that
Yes,
very well.
yes, and they've been doing it for so much longer than we have. The only thing that we do have is we have it's not Focus Hope. It's got focus in the term, and it is in several cities. The best example of that is in St. Louis, Missouri. They have an Orthodox focus center there, and it operates almost exactly like Catholic Charities. It has social services, it has healthcare, it has a food pantry, it has all of those things. And they're trying to spread that concept to other cities. So when I was in Detroit, they came to our parish and they said, we'd like to start this idea in your area, but unfortunately I left before we got that. So we are starting to do that. The problem that I had with it is that they are not necessarily working together with the existing with the existing social services that are in the area. it should never be a competition.
Yeah.
You know, okay, I'm homeless. Do I go to Catholic Charities, or do I go to Orthodox Focus, or do I go to Lutheran Fish House?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be like that. What it should be is each one fills a gap. So Catholic Charities provides a service, but they don't have enough money to provide this service, so Orthodox Focus provides this, and then the Lutherans provide that. What we are not very good at doing is actually integrating ourselves into the community and figuring out where we fit. We sometimes just kind of dump ourselves in and say, hey, we got a food pantry. Hey, and I'm not talking about St. Louis. St. Louis has done it very, very well. But a lot of times in these others, like when they came to me, to our parish, and they said, hey, we want to do this. I said, well, what's your strategy? And they said, well, we'll set up this, we'll set up this, we'll set up this. And I said, don't you think we should do like a focus group and find out what's in the community and what the needs are? And they're like, yeah, I guess we can do that, but we got to get started. I'm like, no, so sometimes we take a very competitive idea, like we feel that the way to spread orthodoxy is just to plant ourselves there and say, come on, you homeless, come on here, get your help, So this is not how we should be doing this.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, St. Louis has done a wonderful job at that because they figured out how to integrate themselves in the community, so they provide a distinct service that is not provided in some of the other areas.
Yeah, Emos was gesturing about the table.
I've had a whole cup of Greek coffee. I'm excited.
Yeah, you got the energy. Napoleon Bonaparte asks,
Who was JFK, right?
Was JFK? I'm looking forward to what he transitions to next week.
I hope it's Nelson Mandela. I don't know why, but yeah, just another name. What is the difference between the virtues of faith and hope?
Well, the first thing I can think of is that, Jesus said, even the devil has faith. He knows that the devil knows that God exists. So faith alone, right, is not the full answer, right? What Satan does not have is he has no idea that our hope for salvation lies in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So he knows who Jesus is. That's not the question, because many times when Jesus was exorcising the demons would say, have you come here to torment us before the end of time? They know who he is. They have faith. But what hope is the guarantee that you know what Jesus has done and is doing for us. That's the hope that we have. Now, the faith component of that is that we also believe that Jesus is God, the one who can do that. But both of those are essential qualities. Hope is useless if you don't know what you're hoping for. That's the faith component. What am I hoping for? Do I hope that the force will save me? Do I hope that the trees will save me? Where is your hope placed? That's the faith component. But faith is, okay, well, yeah, I know that he's God, but I have absolutely no hope that he can do anything for us. He's just like Buddha. He's not able to do anything. So those two have to become integrally meshed. But each one almost depends on the other.
Yeah, perhaps maybe that's why the question, because it almost seems so indistinguishable that the question exists, right? I've heard this kind of question before, the difference between faith
But
and
each one by themselves does not bring us into the kingdom of heaven, right?
Yeah.
Also, scientifically, in Pandora's box, we got faith, but hope is still locked up.
Hope did not escape from the box.
Trench says, some priests say interpret what you feel is right. Why is that sometimes? Why do you
No, you don't interpret what you feel is right. Since when have we become a faith of feeling? No, that's modern. That's modernism poppycock.
It sounds like spiritualism.
It's weird secular spiritualism. Because then I can believe whatever I want because it makes me feel good. Is that how we raise our children? I'll just do whatever makes me feel good. or what makes them feel good, right? I've heard that too. How ridiculous is that? So we are.
Explains a lot.
What?
It explains a lot.
Well, it could explain a lot. All right. We are a faith of discipline. We are a faith of compassion, but we're a faith of discipline. We know what we believe in. We don't tell our parishioners, if you feel that, we don't tell them, if you feel that you should have communion, come up and receive it. No. That is heresy. So we have to be very careful with the idea of feelings. All right. We can feel the presence of the Lord, but we can't extend that to say the Lord gives me the freedom to do whatever I feel is right.
Yeah.
No. He has given us the church, and the church, capital C, not small c, capital C, then that's, I know this, I'm going to get burned on this, but tells us what is right and what is wrong. It's our mother. She teaches us.
The next question is from RSSTTK. Why do some GOA churches have gay pride flags flying proudly? Isn't the gay pride flag a mockery to God?
Well, I don't know if it's a mockery to God. I wouldn't go so far as to say that, but you as an Orthodox faith, you cannot fly the flag, because flying a flag, and again,
Can you fly any flag?
Oh yeah, we fly the American flag right out our door. We fly the Byzantine flag.
Yeah.
Okay, we can fly the flag of Greece, because there is nothing in those three that is antithetical to our faith, right? Okay, I mean, okay, we can talk about separation of church and state and all that. Okay,
Well,
but if you fly a flag, then you are saying that I agree with the principles of the flag. And right now, the Orthodox Church does not support gay marriage. And by fly, you can't fly a flag and say, well, I accept this, but I don't accept that. When you take your oath as an American citizen, we don't ask you, or in the military, they didn't say, will you support and defend some of the Constitution? What we say is, do you support and defend? If you don't, you're out. So I think it's very hypocritical to fly a flag that that you can't support, because a gay couple seeing that flag will say, this is a place of sanctuary for me. I want to get married. And the priest is going to say, I'm sorry, but I can't do that. Well, why are you flying the flag of sanctuary? So, but you want to make a comment.
Oh, my comment was like, right, we fly flags of countries of origin, or like that are related closely to the church, right? Like, I suppose, right, maybe a Russian Orthodox church in America might fly Russia's flag as well. But like, what if those countries commit acts that are antithetical to the church?
Well, you better throw America in there.
That's what I mean.
Okay.
I'm not talking about Russia or Greece. I'm
I-
talking about in general, right? Like,
Yes.
any country.
It could also mean that the flag is representative of the people, not necessarily the government.
Yeah.
The Greek flag, when
But
I see the Greek flag, I think of the Greek people. I'm an American, but when I see the flag, I think of Greek people. I don't think of Greek governments.
You're right. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I can see that point. I can understand what Demos is saying.
I get it all, but it's still a question I have.
But an American flag is also a flag of sanctuary to immigrants. Equally so, the pride flag is a flag of sanctuary. The people that fly that flag are offering sanctuary.
Yeah.
They believe in those principles. And the answer to us is we don't, because we're not going to offer them communion. We're not going to offer them the right to live together. We're not going to offer them the right to get married. So what sanctuary are we providing them?
It's fair. Oh, this makes me depressed. But it's okay. We'll move on to another question.
But you certainly don't want to. You certainly don't want to be involved with people who are hypocritical, right? Don't you want truth up front?
Oh, yes. Yeah, you're right. Like, why be misleading about it?
Exactly. Why be?
No, I can agree about that, but like, I guess maybe I more so feel inclined to say we should not be flying any flag.
Well,
That's my kind of, I lean towards that a little bit.
All right.
But this is we gotta move on with questions.
okay, but I will close it with this. This is why in both churches that I have been a priest of, I have taken all the flags out of the church. See, there are churches that fly the American and Greek flag in the church, and I will not allow that.
Yeah, that's a little weird to
Okay,
me.
we have the parking lot flag. I allow that.
Yeah,
But-
that's fine. Yeah,
but-
I guess that's okay.
But the American flag, any flag of country, regardless of whether it's American or not, and hey, I'm a soldier, okay,
Yeah.
has no place in the church because we are not a country.
Yeah, the church is not.
So yeah, I've tried to
Okay.
do the best with it.
Okay, we're on a similar
Sorry.
wavelength. We move on. We move on. Okay.
I can't help it if they start the discussion. I got moved on.
Napoleon has another question. If we have inherited a nature that makes us tainted to choose sin, i.e., original sin, do we truly have free will? The good old question.
But remember I said last week, again, we believe like the Jews, there is the inclination for good and the inclination for evil. It doesn't mean we will do it. That's the free will component. When you are inclined to something, it doesn't mean you're going to do it, right? Okay, so free will is the ability to resist the temptation or the inclination to evil and to go in the direction of good.
Yeah, I think that's a concise answer. Moving on, Georgie Kapananze, I hope I said your name correctly. Hello. Why after Christ, his second coming, will not be any more of the birth of a new generation, and why everyone will be sisters and brothers of each other? I hope I'm kind of getting the gist of this question. So I guess what Georgie is trying to say is maybe he read this somewhere that like after Christ's second coming, no new babies will be born, everyone will be brother and sister of each other. Maybe he's asking if that's true.
Sounds like a translated question.
Yeah, it sounds like a translated question.
All right, so at the second coming, right, we all go to judgment, okay? And that at that resurrection, we will receive our glorified bodies. Our glorified bodies will no longer be tainted by, and using the word of the phraseology of the previous question, we will no longer be tainted by sin. And our only direction can be, our free will be exercised only in the direction of God. So in that sense, we will achieve that perfect love through our glorified bodies, right? Mm-hmm. Now, again, why will we have births and all that? That's a good question. I don't know
Well,
if
that could also be a suggestion of the rapture.
Yeah.
No marriages in heaven.
and unfortunately, you hear diverging comment on that because one, in the marriage service we say, and what God has joined together, let no man put asunder. Okay, so does that mean that God separates that marriage, or does that mean now that God exists in heaven? At the woman of the well, he says you have had seven husbands. Okay, he's talking to the Pharisee, and they give him that question about the man who has, or the wife, right, who has the husbands. Which one will be his husband in heaven? And Jesus says, her husband, and says, have you not read scriptures that men and women are not given in heaven? So that tends to imply that there is not a marriage in heaven. I just tend to one of the beliefs is that perfect love will extend to all people. So although one idea is that although I will retain the memory of who Terry is, that love that I have will be equal among all brothers and sisters.
It's a question of sexuality, though.
Yeah.
It's a question. I mean, the marriage exists on earth for the purpose of reproduction. So in heaven,
What?
I mean, people get married so they can reproduce and be fruitful and
What are you,
have.
Catholic?
No, I'm not being very specific. I'm being broad right now.
But that is not Orthodox. I
But,
gotta.
but if I may finish my question.
No, you can't finish the question.
But there's
because
like a
No.
huge mountain of questions in the chat. We should.
Okay,
It's,
but
yeah,
That was a
the thing
discussion
is, on Earth, people get married and they have children. In heaven, people are not going to be having children, right?
we don't believe that they right.
So if they're not having children, I mean, what's the purpose of marrying in heaven?
Well, people get married on Earth and don't have
I
children.
mean, look at Terry and I, right? So our marriage is not good.
I'm not saying that one way or the other. I'm just saying, like, I mean, specifically, that I mean, if there's no sex in heaven, then why should people remain? You know, why should they get married?
So the purpose for sex is procreation.
No, I'm just
There's
yeah,
God didn't give it to us for enjoyment.
I mean, yeah, that's
Okay,
true.
all right. So now, remember, the Orthodox idea is, I got to stay on this point. The Orthodox
Okay,
idea
you guys
of,
deal with that.
The Orthodox idea of marriage is for each other's salvation.
Yeah.
Right. Children are a blessing, but not a requirement. We ask that they have fair children, but we don't require it. So every marriage that is conducted in the Orthodox Church is a distinct unit. It's a family unit. It doesn't have to have children. So I don't want people getting the idea of taking that away.
That's not what I'm suggesting.
No,
I'm
but
just
what
saying-
you said.
Yeah, well, I've also been sick for 3 days. Give me a break. The thing is, like, if
But he hit a tough spot with me. So.
Are you feeling better?
yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad you feel better.
No, but once again, though, I mean, like, if it expands outwards, I mean, one of the things about marriage, one of the benefits of marriage is that when you get married, hopefully in a perfect, if in a perfect union, it guarantees that children are going to have a mother and a father, right?
Yes.
And outside of Orthodoxy and et cetera, that's a good system to have to maintain that family unit, right? And that's probably one of the reasons in many other cultures they still have marriage for that specific reason, so that children will, they're not just abandoned. They're,
That is a component if they have children, that those children will be raised in a family unit. Absolutely.
So because it goes back to this question over here about no births in the new generation. That's what I'm tying this into. That's the second part of this question. So when you're in heaven, if you're not going to be having children in heaven, are there new births? Are there going to be babies in heaven? If that's not a component, why will there be marriage? That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, and again, I still don't want to make that connection.
Yeah.
I don't think that's necessarily a complete connection. I think that because it unfortunately places the requirement that children must come out of a marriage, and that is not an Orthodox belief. Yes, that the idea of that children that we don't need to have children in heaven, that we will be who we are. I mean, I can't say that for sure. I don't know what's in God's plan there, but I'm very, very cautious about trying to make a connection that in any way paints an Orthodox marriage as a procreation mechanism.
But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the guys, George's second part of the question, where it's the new generation after the second coming. That means we're in heaven, right? So the question of brothers and sisters to each other, if there's not going to be, if there isn't going to be any birth,
Yes, that's where I would stop.
Yeah.
I would say because we now have a brother and sister relationship, that marriage no longer has that function. I just want to eliminate the kids from the whole thing.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, some folks in the chat have some comments. They actually really liked this little discussion debate you guys were having, even though it totally made me tune out a bit. But yeah, for instance,
Demos got in the mix here. Look
yeah,
at this.
Demos got in the mix. John Paul Humphrey says, in the Christian marriage, he is able to achieve an eternal, unique, and total union in love. He also said, Christ has only one church. The church has no other Christ. Even death cannot break the bond of perfect love.
Okay, I would agree with that. Absolutely, we would agree with that.
Yeah, Owen Petard says, no marriage in heaven. Father recited the source. Trench thinks you asked a really good question, Demos. Let's see here.
Oh, he did. He asked a really good question.
He
Just
did.
wrong.
Oh,
Hey,
Okay,
this
we're
is
gonna-
why
we're-
you tune
we're
into
gonna
this
have
show
a
because
whole-
I give it to you.
we're gonna have an episode. And by the way,
it's
I
great.
still maintain that skydiving is not an extreme sport.
This is the unvarnished show.
The unvarnished show. Okay. Yes. Okay. Wait. Let me get back up to these
But
questions.
I love Demos.
Did I? Yeah. We
I
all
love-
love
you
Demos.
love Demos.
Demos
We'll
is
go
the
on a little bit longer.
Yeah, we'll
because there
go
are a
on
lot
a-
of questions.
Yeah, and like this is my first time back in a bit, so I kind of don't mind.
We can blame Marissa.
Yeah,
We
blame
can agree
me.
on that, huh?
I'll
No,
take
because
blame.
no, because we love her, so we're not going to blame her.
Oh,
I
that's
like her.
No. Oh, and he likes her
It
too.
works out.
He didn't say he loves me. He said he likes me. Wow. Okay. I gotta get back on track here. All right. So, NG1A says, I am not convinced that a memorial service helps a deceased receive a more favorable judgment. Is not one to be judged based on their works before one passes?
Okay, so that is a very Protestant theology that whatever you work to achieve the kingdom of heaven must be done before you die. Period. That is a very Protestant belief. Orthodoxy and Catholicism does not have that belief. Okay, unfortunately, in history, the Catholic Church got a bad reputation because of indulgences and paying for indulgences and all that. They got a bad reputation. Okay, Orthodoxy, because we were a little bit more isolated, we didn't really have that issue. But we absolutely believe, like the Catholic Church, that prayers and memorial services said for the dead are, to use Demos's favorite word, efficacious.
That's a good word.
Okay,
Can you define what it means? Efficacious?
that there is a benefit that can be obtained. We in no way will say that those prayers will save the person, but as God was moved by Abraham to offer to save Sodom and Gomorrah, we believe, and through the fourth Maccabees, and in there the prayers that were said for the dead there, we truly believe that God can be moved in his infinite mercy to save that person. But it is not a Protestant belief, absolutely not. But it is an Orthodox and Catholic belief.
Interesting.
What? Oh, hey, Nick, how we doing?
Which Nick?
So when we first moved to Michigan, we went to St. George Greek Orthodox Church in Bloomfield Hills. At the time when we were there, and I was getting ready to discover my spiritual father, Nick was the parish council president there. Did a really great job. Nick is a wonderful person. He's in Pennsylvania right now.
Well, I definitely remember the name NG1A coming up on the show, even from the beginning, I think. So that's awesome.
He is a world-renowned metallurgist.
Cool.
Yes, yeah.
Cool.
So he consults both to the government and private industry on issues of metallurgy. So very
Yeah.
sharp science. He's another scientist. You guys are
Yeah.
ruling the world now.
Yeah, we just accrete around you.
Oh, I like that.
The only engineer we tolerate.
Thank you.
Aaron 88205 has a very important question, and he says this is his final one for you.
Oh, come on.
Have you ever tried Whistlepig Boss Hog whiskey? It's top shelf, not cheap, but incredibly worth it. Highly recommend.
Yes, I have.
Yeah, I think we had it on the show, didn't we?
No, we didn't have Whistlepig because Whistlepig is about $400 a bottle.
Oh, never mind. Yeah, we haven't had that.
But
We accept donations.
I have had it. It is absolutely excellent. It's got a nice rye flavor to it. Very good, and it is top shelf. I mean, if you're gonna
$400, it better be.
So thank you for that. But yes, I have tried that.
Trench's fourth question. Some churches won't you Christians, Orthodox, be allowed to participate or have sacraments unless they pay the church dues, which can be over $400 at times. How is that possible? I suppose he's asking, so some churches, whether or not you're an Orthodox Christian, they won't let you have communion. Well, they won't let you participate in sacraments unless you pay money.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that sounds unethical.
Okay, so it is absolutely uncanonical and unethical, and in fact, it is simony. It is against the canons of the church. Charging for a sacrament is called simony. Okay, so we have to separate out those two. If somebody walks in this church and says that, I want to baptize my child, I want to get married, okay, then we accept them freely, all right? But if you are a member of this parish, then you have certain responsibilities, okay? Those responsibilities are to support the community here. That's fair share, that's stewardship, that's obligation, whatever you want to call that. That it has no connection to, what do I want to say, sacraments. So I'll give you the example for my last parish. In my last parish, we said that if you are a member of the church, then all it implies is that you offer stewardship. We didn't give a price, we didn't give everything, but whatever you, right? Okay. This entitles you to all the rights and benefits of Orthodox Christianity, okay? Now, if you are not a member of the church, but you wish to perform your wedding or baptism service here, there is a charge of $300 for the cleaning of the church, for the turning on of the lights and the heat, and of bringing the chanters and the other people to help in the service. This has nothing to do with the sacrament, but nothing is free. So what people would do sometimes, it was, you're charging me for the baptism. No, I'm not charging you. You are not a member of this parish, okay, but you want to use our services, all right? We expect then that you will offer then at least to pay for the secular items that are necessary to perform the sacrament. So we separate that out. Now, if somebody comes and they are destitute and they want to, and I've had that, okay, they just don't have, they're out of work, they don't have any money, and they want to baptize their child, come in and we will baptize and the church will pick that up. But if you show up in your $60,000 Mercedes from Denver somewhere and you say, I love this church, I'm getting baptized in here, okay, then pay to turn the lights on and offer some donation to our parish.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
on to the next question from Nicholas. Do the monks ever leave the monastery if they have a family emergency?
If you watch that, 60 Minutes did an episode.
When?
Years back. Terry could probably tell me. Years back, 60 Minutes went to Mount Athos and they interviewed some of the monks at Vatopedi and Simona Petra, and that question came up. About, well, when's the last time you've seen it? And the one monk said that unfortunately my father died and I didn't go see him. So typically the monks renounce all of their worldly items, and they take very seriously what Jesus Christ said. He who loves mother and father more than me is not worthy of me. They take that very serious, and serious to the point that many times they do not. It's not that the abbot wouldn't allow them to go, they themselves don't go.
Yeah.
Right? So this is not a thing of obedience. No, you can't go because you're a monk. And the monk many times will say, if you would like to go, you can go. And they say, no, this is where I belong. So that is a true statement. But I don't think that the abbot in most cases will deny them if it is something that is very vital or important to them.
Mm-hmm. The next question, I hope I didn't skip any. I don't think I did. Georgie says, why God did not make something like for Satan for salvation as he did for humans. I'm asking because fallen angel is also his nature. He's a creature that's a fallen angel and he loves everyone.
It's also his creation.
It's also his creation, and God loves everyone. Would you say God loves Satan?
The church would say that God has not created anything that is not good, right? We can't say that God creates evil, but the church absolutely believes that Satan has frozen his will against God. So he will in no way accept God's mercy, his compassion, nor his love. And that is free will. I mean, Satan has free will, but the church believes that he has frozen his will against God. So we don't want to lay this at God's feet. You know, the presence of God to him is hell. He is so angered by just the presence of that love that to him it's like fire, whereas to us it's warmth.
You could say he loves him, but he doesn't like him.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'll go with that. I'll go with that. Right. He loves him, but he doesn't like him. Yeah, I'd like that.
Trench, I did see your wink emoji, which you're addressing to me. I can't really wink very well, but one back at you. The Reese report has a question statement. They say, I have been yearning to convert to Orthodoxy for well over 2 years.
Good.
Yes. A couple weeks ago, I visited a Greek monastery of the Athonite tradition for little vespers and small compline.
Okay.
Then last Sunday, I visited a Greek parish less than an hour away from me. The parish and the priest were very welcoming. I did not find this parish until recently. I decided that I will ask the priest to make me a catechumen.
Okay. All this sounds great.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I think the rest of their statement got cut off. Do you see it?
It seems it was more of a comment. It's giving us
Yeah.
the Reggie report every week has been telling us about their road to catechumen.
No, that's and we
Which
we
is
love
great.
to
Yes.
hear that because
Yeah.
that's an inspiration to others who are seeking out the Orthodox faith.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
I've been wanting to go to like, some of, the other sites and stuff. I did like monasteries. I don't know. Like I want to go and visit places.
I think our next question is from Scott.
Yeah,
That's
let
a-
me.
That's a new one.
Yes. Scott Romanowski. I hope I said that correctly. What are the differences between Greek and Slavic customs in the Divine Liturgy? Do you know of any differences?
In the Divine Liturgy, I'm thinking. I'm trying to remember because in Flint we had a very good relationship with the Antiochian, the OCA Church, which is Slavic roots, and then us. And I don't remember really for a liturgy. I don't remember Father Matthew doing anything different for liturgies. Holy Week was different. There were some different things there. I know that in the Romanians, which has a Slavic tinge to it, that they have this neat custom where the deacons at a certain point in the service will each stand with the fans and they will fan the altar in remembrance of the fact that there was no air conditioning and it shoos the flies away. That's why we call them fans. Okay, so they'll recreate that. But I can't, other than language, I really can't think of any real
Stark
differences,
difference?
stark differences. No. The chanting certainly is different.
Yeah.
The
The
chanting is different.
language would probably.
Yes, that's a good point. What Brenda said is that in the Slavic liturgy, they will read the prayers of the catechumens. We, in Greek parishes, Greek Orthodox parishes, we only read those during the pre-sanctified liturgies. But during a normal liturgy, we omit all of those catechumen prayers. But that's a difference. But in the Slavic tradition, they include those prayers. Also, at the great entrance, we have only one thing that we say, remember all of us in your kingdom now and forever. But in the Slavic tradition, there is a host of litanies that will be said during the great entrance. The only time we say that is when the bishop is present and he says those petitions. So that's another difference. So yeah, that kind of got me thinking.
Marcia Magic wants to know why Byzantine Catholics can be cremated, or can they?
They're Catholic.
Yeah.
So they're part of the Catholic Church. Although they were Orthodox churches, they are Catholic churches, so they can abide by the Catholic doctrine, which says we don't really like it, but we'll allow it.
Merzik3 asks, is it bad or uncouth to ask for prayers? I heard it can be akin to vanity. I've heard of this from some Protestants. Yes, thank you, Presbyterian, as well. And Merzik is recently catechized.
Protestants love doing that stuff. They love asking for prayers. They'll call up on the phone and say, my mother, father, brother, sister is in the hospital. Please pray for him. They'll do it on Facebook. Protestants love doing that
Email
stuff.
threads.
Email
Like,
threads,
there's a
right?
email
You know,
chain.
Websites,
please,
their
you know,
websites have prayer chats.
right.
Thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, they'll do prayer chains and things like that. So the Orthodox Church does the same thing, but rather than the prayer chain, they will just call the priest. They'll call me and say, my mother's in the hospital. Will you come visit her and say prayers for her? So I think that in the Orthodox faith, we kind of shortcut the whole prayer chain and we just call the priest and say, would you pray?
Yeah.
So yes, absolutely.
Second question.
Yeah, the second question is also snake handling on Mount Athos? So, like, is there a thing against, like, is it an activity or like,
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know about, I assume it's not on Mount Athos, but some Protestants, not Protestants, Pentecostals do that. It's dancing with rattlesnakes, and it's the faith is strong enough to keep the rattlesnake from biting you. Or...
And literally, it's in the gospel. Jesus says, "And those who abide in me, no poison will hurt them. If they handle a poisonous creature, it will not hurt them." So they take those words literally.
oh,
Yeah, it's down south.
yeah.
Yeah.
Leave the snakes alone. They just want to slither, you know?
Yeah, really. Just you're right. Just
like-
leave the creatures alone.
Yeah, leave them alone. That's my take.
I do tiger handling myself. You know.
Yes. 1137 Jam asks, my question is about intercessory prayers. How should you begin and end prayers? Can you recommend a prayer book? Thank you.
Actually, I can recommend. There's a wonderful. Did I give it to you?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Yeah, I forget the name, but it's great. I use it.
It's called Orthodox Prayer Book.
Yeah,
It
it
has-
has like Greek on one side, English on the other.
And it's got
Yeah.
every prayer you could imagine.
Literally every prayer is
Right.
in there.
Dinner, after breakfast, when you go to sleep, when you wake up. I
Yeah,
mean, it's got
all the
everything.
special
in it.
ones.
So if we can get the name for that, we'll put it up on
Yeah.
the up on the site. That is absolutely the best Orthodox prayer book that I have seen.
Do you have a favorite prayer?
50th Psalm. I
Yeah,
love the
that
50th
one
Psalm.
is good.
I love the
That one
50th
is good.
Psalm.
How do you begin and end prayers?
Yes.
Okay, so always remember, think of the prayer as a sandwich, okay? Always you start by identifying who the prayer is addressed. Oh God, oh God the Father, or oh Lord Jesus Christ. Identify who you are praying to so that you don't lead yourself into heresy, right? Because, if we start the prayer with the Theotokos, okay, we can create the perception that we are praying to her. O Theotokos, the mother of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Okay, that's fine.
But you pray through her.
You pray through her, right? So identify what is my prayer. Close by identifying the Trinity. Glory to the Father, and to the Son, to the Holy Spirit. So it's always a sandwich. Identify who you are praying to, what you want to pray for. Close with acknowledging the Trinity.
Beautiful.
To wrap up, let's get to a few questions that we haven't. A few people who haven't had their questions.
Are we in lightning round now?
No, just
Yeah, well, Brett Hagen asks, did Mary ever sin? That's a quick one.
Yes. According to St. John Chrysostom, Virgin Mary exhibited the sin of pride at the wedding of Cana. At the wedding of Cana when the wine ran out, and so she then turned to Jesus and said, "They have no wine." And he turned to her in a very rebuking manner and said, "What does this have to do with me, O woman?" And sometimes the church kind of, not the Orthodox Church,
Yeah.
but sometimes the Protestant Church will soften that a little bit, that's not really what he meant, and you don't understand. No, it was a rebuking. He was letting her know that she was committing the sin of pride. That's according to
Yeah.
St. John Chrysostom.
John, no last name.
Because if she did not sin, then why does she need the salvation? We are all created beings. We all live in sin, right?
Yeah.
In sin did my mother bear me, 50th Psalm.
Yeah.
So she is in need of his salvation as much as all of us are.
let's be fair. If I ran out of wine, I'd probably sin too.
Oh boy.
Nicholas, his question directly underneath is a good one.
I like scrolled all the way down. Nicholas, what is the church stance on the death penalty? Isn't that murder? And if you sentence someone to death, are you allowed to receive Holy Communion? Like, say someone's an executioner for the state, right? And could they get Holy Communion
You
if
cannot-
they're doing their job?
He is absolutely right. The Orthodox Church in no way supports capital punishment. People don't want to hear that, but there is no instance where we support capital punishment. It is not our right. We are not living in the Old Testament, right? This is not eye for eye, tooth for tooth. Okay, we are under a new covenant, all right? So we cannot support the death penalty. So the role of executioner is not an Orthodox position. Now, if it's Protestant or not, I can't answer that question for you. But it is not an appropriate profession for an Orthodox Christian. This is why we don't have the concept of just war. The Orthodox Church does not support war in any form, right? Jesus Christ never went on a war crusade, right?
True. So then this kind of makes me think of the flag question again. Anyway, so
This is going to be the night of debate.
yeah. Anyway, but we'll move on. I'm gonna try and find some good ones.
John, you're right. John has a very important question.
But St. Paul does say, obey those civil authorities above you. So we have the words of Saint, we don't have the words of Jesus, but we have the words of St. Paul that says, and even Jesus, when they asked him, do we pay taxes? He got the fish out of the water, opened up the fish's mouth, and the coin came out, and he says, here, pay the tribute and taxes. So Jesus paid taxes.
Not arguing with paying taxes, just flags. But okay. So are you thinking of the icon one?
No, John, how do I approach my first visit to an Orthodox church, given that I don't know any Orthodox people, but want to join a community?
That's a good question.
With fear and trepidation. No, I mean, look, I'm kind of kidding, but I'm not. I personally do not say to people, come and see, just
It's
come
not
and join it.
proselytizing.
And it's, come on, you have some experience with that. This can be a scary place.
Yeah.
If you have no idea what's going on and you come from a non-denominational background or even maybe a Protestant or Catholic background, we can be scary. There's smells and sounds. We're running around. People are standing, sitting. Then there's the communion cup. Do I go up? Do I not go up? He's sensing me. Do I stand? What do I do? I mean, there's so many things that we take for granted. We are a very ordered liturgical life.
Yeah.
So I don't, I don't encourage or I don't tell people just come to our liturgy. I call and I say, come and meet with me, and let me talk you through what it is that you're going to see, and then that gives me the ability to then connect them with somebody. Like I'll say to Presbytera, or I'll say. And I've done it to you too, right, Pericles, right? I'll say,
I brought him to you.
Yeah, that's right.
Excuse
Yeah,
you.
that's true. That's true. But I will make sure that person is hooked up with somebody. So as they're going through the liturgy and they go, what is he doing now? Somebody can answer. It's a very scary thing to be back there and go, I don't even know what he's doing. And then all of a sudden, he's not doing something right. And then the Greek ladies are turning around and looking at him like,
Yeah.
So
I've seen that.
So the answer to the question is contact the priest, call the priest, and make an appointment and say, I'm interested in coming to a liturgy. But, I've never been to an Orthodox service, so, this guy on YouTube, this priest on YouTube said that it's best that I contact you first. And then that priest will say, you know what, come, and then he'll at least know, and he'll have one of the members in the narthex that will kind of help and guide him.
Yeah.
And we're going to have a teaching service soon.
In September we're going to have a teaching liturgy. Yep.
Which will be an added benefit.
Yeah.
Wait, I have someone had a question that like.
Oh, yeah. Yes,
interesting.
we could turn that into a video too, right?
Yes,
Teaching liturgy.
definitely, 100%.
Can I ask one more question? So Yusuf asks, I'm an ex-Muslim and me and my wife want to become Orthodox Christians. Can we have some help?
Well, he said I'm an ex-Muslim, so that means
So I'm assuming-
he's a something now.
So I'm assuming I'm assuming, Yusuf, that you were Muslim and now you are no longer practicing.
Right.
So under that assumption,
I'm going to give the same exact advice. Your journey to Orthodoxy always starts with the local priest. That's where your journey starts. All we're doing here is just providing a little bit of insight into some questions, everything like that. But we are not a church. This YouTube is not a church. We're just kind of a resource. So the answer is always the same. Find an Orthodox church, Russian, Romanian, OCA, Antiochian, Greek Orthodox, it doesn't matter. Go find and make an appointment with the priest. And if you feel a connection with that priest, then continue your journey. But you need a spiritual guide. And that is the priest.
yeah, well said. Any other comments? Should we go through more questions? What should we do?
Let's
Want to
go
keep
for
going?
a couple more.
Sounds good to me too. I'm
We did
happy to
start
keep
a
going.
little bit late.
Yeah, we
somebody
did.
was drinking coffee.
Well, yeah. Well, I had to try out my new Biko here. I mean, it was.
John Paul asks, are you aware of the current monastery icons controversy?
Oh.
And how do you tell a real icon from a fake? Or if actually, that's another question we can add. If an icon has been blessed, is it a fake icon?
Look, everybody has the right to create an icon. All right. Now, if we want to get into this, I mean, the Orthodox Church, unlike the Catholic Church, does have rules and a discipline for iconography.
Like, isn't it a practice that you have to be trained in?
Yes, yeah. I mean, you have to be trained in the sense that it will.
Like, there's an apprenticeship almost.
There is an
right?
apprenticeship so that the icon will have the traditional accepted look. Okay, but when we were in Michigan, we would go to the Dormition Women's Monastery, and they would have an iconography class. You as a layperson could go, and they would teach you the art of iconography. And they would create these, and some were better than others, right? And they would create those, and those are icons. They're created by a layperson who's had a little bit of training, and then those icons can be blessed. All right. So I don't want to get into this idea that only a monk can create an icon. That's not true. But if you're gonna label yourself as an iconographer for the church, then certainly you have to be trained under an apprentice. You have to understand the differences between Russian Catholic and Orthodox and Greek Orthodox iconography styles. You have to have a prayerful idea. You have to live an Orthodox life. These are things that are a requirement. But if you just want to paint an icon because you're a good artist, fine. That icon is just as valid as the one that's painted by the great iconographers of the world.
So if an icon, let's just say it is, they say fake or real, but if it's blessed, it's blessed.
Yeah, I just don't. I wouldn't use that. I don't like fake or real.
Yeah.
All icons are real. It's just that some of them are made in the traditional style, which would be accepted in a church to be displayed. I remember in Flint we had this one parishioner, and she painted this icon, and the bishop wouldn't let us put it up because it wasn't drawn that well. She had a good heart, and it was a saint that she was cared very deeply about, but it wasn't painted correctly. But it was an icon, and he let us keep it. But he's like, "You're not hanging that up."
Yeah.
Did you see that painting down in, I think it was in South America? A lady tried to restore a painting of
Oh
Jesus.
yes,
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
yes,
It
yes.
looks like they call him Monkey Jesus.
Monkey, yes.
It's
Oh.
like a meme
Yeah,
now.
it's become a meme, but
Yeah.
Yeah, we just want to create Scary Lucy.
hey, but it's made him more famous.
But
It's Scary Lucy is the thing. I don't know if you want to explain that, but it's a statue of Lucille Ball that wasn't done very well.
doesn't very well.
John Paul's second question, if you see it.
Can you ask it?
Yeah. Why is Christ not supposed to be depicted as a lamb? I assume it's because of the sacrifice connotation.
Well, part of it, and that is not the form that Jesus took. We can only represent Jesus's form that he took. Symbolically, he was called a lamb because he was again led to slaughter. But Jesus Christ was not a lamb. He was humanity. He was God enfleshed in humanity. And so we can't. I mean, like, I wouldn't show you as a tiger as much as you think you're a tiger. I would never paint you as a tiger because you're not. You're a human.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Oddest thing Amy's ever told me, but
Gigi's question was, did Adolf Hitler and the Nazis support the Orthodox Church? They're saying they saw this in a documentary and they're wondering if it's true.
and that's probably why GG, just for FYI, it's probably why your question was blocked the first time because
Yeah.
you misspelled Nazis this time.
Yes.
It was blocked the first time. I bet you it was blocked because you spelled it correctly.
Oh,
Yeah.
and it was okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
YouTube is very, very crazy. Even just saying that word now is bad enough. But
Yeah.
Now, I don't have any accounting of where they supported any kind of Christian religion. In fact, they persecuted Christian pastors and priests. They hung them in the villages. They executed Bonhoeffer. So they had absolutely no love for Christians. What Hitler did have an obsession for was the occult and items that he felt had some kind of magical powers, like the lance that pierced Jesus, the cup of Christ. He thought that these things would grant him some earthly power.
there's a great documentary about it.
Not
So
his
Raiders of the
cult.
Lost Ark.
No, but there is an actual
Yeah,
documentary on Hitler and the occult. Hitler's interest in the occult. It's a great documentary, but again, he had no love for the Christian faith. He just had this misguided, goofy idea that if he possessed these things, he would possess God's power. It was ridiculous.
So next questions. I'm actually gonna, is it okay if we just ask two more and then we're done?
Yep. Two more.
Yeah, I'll do the last two and I'll flip them in order.
And again, Marissa, thank you very much for kind of hanging on here. I know it's
No, it's fun. I'm having a great time. Natalia asks what the church's position is on bioethics, such as organ donation or getting a transplant or giving a transplant or donating your body to science kind of thing, genetic research, in vitro fertilization, all of these kind of things. Is bioethics.
I'll add the video to the chat.
there is a absolutely great book on orthodoxy and bioethics that
Who is it by? This leads into the last question. Go on.
Yeah, if I could, it's up in my office, so I don't have time to bring it, but I'll bring it on the next show and I'll show it to you. That is such a hard question because there is such a span of things that is under the umbrella of bioethics.
Yeah.
I mean, in vitro fertilization, genetic modifications, cloning, some of the things that were mentioned there. I mean, organ donation. I mean, bioethics is just so huge. We just, we don't.
It's a
don't have
lot. That deserves its own
Yeah,
video. It deserves its own book.
I can say
Plural?
that for the organ donation,
Donation.
I just added in the description, I added our video about that.
Yes.
And it covers a couple, I think you also mentioned transplants in that as well.
Right. So those type of medical procedures like organ donation, transplants, we can support those. Those are not a problem. Where it becomes problematic is genetic alterations.
Yeah.
Then we become
Like
a little fuzzy.
like what is it called? Like CRISPR kind of stuff. Like there's the idea that
Genetic engineering.
genetic engineering and say I don't know, you want your kid to have blue eyes or something.
Eugenics.
I
Wait,
think that's they're a similar vein, but that's obviously I think eugenics pertains to just actually making sure groups of people do not have kids.
Oh no.
Not exactly.
No, which is the one that Hitler wanted to create the perfect race? Wasn't that eugenics?
Yes,
I
that
know-
was eugenics, but I mean, like, you can take someone's egg, for instance, modify the DNA, say you and your husband and everyone in your history have always had brown eyes, but
Right.
you want your kid to have blue eyes, alternating the DNA.
Yes, yeah. So right, we don't no, we don't support.
Yeah.
Because we also what happened with Khan,
The Wrath of
the
Khan?
Wrath of Khan. Yeah.
That's right. Yes, the ultimate genetic research there. Okay, and we had the last question.
Yeah, the last question is, where would you suggest I buy study Bibles, prayer books? Is it best to support a monastery? Like, where do you buy all this stuff? Like, if you want to, get a book on Orthodoxy, do you know of a good vendor or monastery that sells these
Yeah,
things?
Terry,
Want to give a shout
Terry,
out?
the one that is that Ancient Faith. The publications, Orthodox publications, Ancient Faith, isn't it? So yeah, Ancient Faith Bookstore. Just Google them, Ancient Faith Bookstore. Certainly Vladimir Press, Holy Cross Bookstore. Any one of those three goes to support obviously our seminaries. Ancient Faith is helping then the Orthodox Internet Ministries, and then monasteries will also then publish certain materials so we can support them. But at least the top three, I would say, is Vladimir Press, Holy Cross Bookstore, and then, Ancient Faith Publications.
Cool. And so on that note, anything to finish up? I'm sorry. There probably were so many
Yeah.
questions in the chat.
But we got to leave something for next Thursday, right?
Speaking of next Thursday,
Okay.
are we going to be on next Thursday?
So we will be on next Thursday, but I'm actually going to be in Tarpon Springs, helping my mom make the final move into her condo. All right. So I'm going to be down there. I'm going to be helping her, giving my sister at least a 1 week break because she has been toiling ceaselessly in getting my parents' house ready for sale. And at the same time, making sure that my mom gets moved into the condo, and then also kind of, taking care of my mom too. So I'm going to go down there and give her a little bit of a break, and just hang out with my mom a little bit and make sure she gets moved in.
Yeah, you guys deserve that. Spend some time together.
And so we will be broadcasting live. I'll make sure that we got a lot of hits when my mom showed up on camera, right?
Cute.
So I'm gonna bring my
So
mom
if you
back
have
on.
questions about Father Angelo for his mother, now's the time to get them prepared.
Yeah, it's too bad I probably couldn't get her to do it, but I could get her to host the show, and then they'd ask
should.
questions, and then she'd ask questions. What was Angelo like when he was?
Yeah. How do you feel that your son is a priest?
Well,
you
yes.
know?
Do you feel it's a good thing?
Yeah.
How often do you receive communion from your son? So, well, hey, again, Marissa, it was great to have you back. Thank you very, very much. So, like I said, next week we'll be back in Tarpon, and then we'll be back here. So, again, thanks everybody, and we look forward to seeing you on Sunday and then next Thursday.
Kali Nikta sa.
Kali Niktas us.